BlogTalk Radio.
Well, good morning. It's Wednesday. No, it's not Wednesday. It's Thursday. I knew there was a problem here already. It's Thursday morning, and this is BlogTalk Radio on the subject of open money. Today, we're focusing on the Community Way project, and in particular on evolving developments in Portland, where we're joined by Collin and Katin, both of whom are exploring the ideas and have some questions. And the game today is FAQ, the frequently asked questions of Community Way. So it's me here in my studio, Ernie at his desk, and Collin and Katin. I'd like to say hello, guys.
Hello.
Good morning.
That was 2 out of 3.
Oh, yeah,
here?
right. There's me too.
Oh, Ernie's here too. Well, that's
Yes.
always good.
This is Ernie. Identify yourselves again, will you guys? Which one's Katin? Which one's Collin?
All right, well, this is Collin Ferguson, representing Cascadia Commons.
And this is Katin, down in Portland.
Great, guys. We got you. So, Community Way. Oh, just a minute. I have a slight issue here. Okay, that's fine. Issue handled. So
You didn't mention the fact that you were also Ustreaming.
Well, this is true, yeah, and I should, ustream.tv/openmoney, and you will find a current streaming to video of this, and later there'll be an improved podcast up there too. The idea is to make things as intelligible and accessible as we can. This is really still just a bit of a test broadcast and an opportunity to engage in a Q&A and put it down in various fairly permanent forms. So, let's go with it. Collin, Katin.
Except for the fact that I'm not getting the stream. I don't see any movement whatsoever.
The stream does seem to be a bit...
Anybody else on the stream?
No, I'm not watching the stream from here.
Okay.
I'm going to restart the broadcast and see if that relives it. I've got all the right signals that show that it's doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yet it says...
I probably should want this on mute because that's going to make some funny.
Okay, and what I'm seeing here is off air.
All right, so I'm seeing it on the page now.
You've got Ustream up? Open money?
I got it now, and it says it's live and recording.
And yours says it's live. Okay. Well,
yeah,
we'll go with your
live. I've got it too.
Okay. Great.
Good. So all these little giggles being sorted out, only 5 minutes into the show. That's not bad for a first technical startup. So, take it away, guys.
Fantastic. Well, Michael, I've been, getting my feet wet in open money, and I've enjoyed the experience so far. And I had some questions for you. I guess I'll start with a little bit of an introduction with the works of Cascadia Commons and what's been exciting down here. The Community Way program is very interesting to a lot of the charitable organizations right now, especially with the economic downturn that the United States is currently experiencing. A lot of charitable organizations are very worried about losing income in the next couple years as money resources tighten up. So Community Way is very attractive, and I've talked to many people and some very interesting and exciting folks. One particular recent is Tad Lukasik of the Oregon Creative Industries, and he is, of course, used to work on a project for a Cascadia Creative Industries, but that was not successful, and so he's interested in using Community Way as a way to more efficiently fund that effort. And then today I got an email from Harvey Matthews, who's the president of the Software Association of Oregon, and he again is also interested in the use of Community Way to fund their efforts. And I had a meeting yesterday with Jennifer Allen of the Oregon Council for the Humanities, and she is putting on a panel in the spring and has invited me to speak on that regarding the future of alternative economies. And then lastly, on January 25th in Seattle, Washington, I'll be up there meeting with some folks who are also interested in open money, particularly Malcolm Best of Sustainable Cascadia. So it sounds like there's some very interesting prospects in the near future here, and frankly, I just want to thank you for all of your hard work in open money as it's now really starting to catch on.
Well, that's delightful, Colin. Really good to hear of this. I guess this means that it's not just your feet that are going to get wet, but probably your head as well. So you're in deep, man.
Yeah.
And any comments, Katin?
Nope. Just listening down here.
Okay. So let's go with the questions.
Okay.
Quick fire. Let's bash them up.
Well, let's talk a little bit of what's in the news lately. Some very interesting things are starting to come up because of the economic downturn and now the changing of the guard, if you will, with President Barack Obama taking the helm in Washington, D.C. This month's Atlantic Monthly has a very interesting article titled, believe it or not, "Be Nice to the Countries That Lend You Money." This article is in reference to the $2 trillion that the United States now owes to China. And so I guess my first question would be about, where we are now economically speaking with the current monetary system and a system in which, one country lends money to another and the tension, the political tension that causes. And I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I can speak to it. Looks like another fine mess. That's about all I can say, really. That's way out of the range of issues that I feel that I have any influence over. Maybe if I wrote a great book and won 6 Nobel Prizes and then one could have some effect on that. But the thing I notice is that machine has particular characteristics. The credit system that's used to create conventional money, its ramifications in the international patterns are such that it's hopelessly unstable. And that instability is encouraged by the greed factor and the opportunism of our so-called leaders. So, basically a pox on all their houses, or good luck to all of them, depending on which way you look at it. It's not within our realm, and that's exactly why we have to start looking at things that are within our realm. The work that we can do to create economies of significant function, commonwealth for our communities, an economy where the externalities, which are so often created by these international trade games, are no longer swept under the rug or pushed out to sea or forgotten, but we become more responsible for our work in our own communities, using our money. That's the name of the game. That's about really all I can say about that stuff, Colin.
I
don't think it'll get me in Atlantic, man.
That thoroughly answers the question.
Okay.
I think one of the really things that fascinates me about open money is this concept of multiple currencies. But there have been attempts in the past to introduce not multiple currencies, but at least dual currencies. And I was wondering if you could speak to what has gone on in Cuba of recent. The New York Times magazine this week has an article called "The End of the Revolution," and I quote from the author: "Cuba has two currencies, one for communism and one for a limited state-dominated capitalism. The peso that people get their salaries in are essentially good for nothing, but rationed for undesirable items. By contrast, the convertible dollar-pegged peso, known as the Cook, are good for international products." Now, of course, Cuba, as we all know, they have great healthcare system, but they absolutely have no diversity in their economy, and they're constantly waiting for the government to allow the next innovative technology. I mean, just recently...
there are wonderful lessons to be learned from Cuba. None of them have to do with money, except insofar as to indicate the absolute inadequacy of that sort of dual currency, good money, bad money style. The history of conventional commodity currencies, and the two currencies that are in the discussion in Cuba are both commodity currencies. Commodity in the sense that there is so much of it, and it's issued by the governments or the organizations, the central banks. And then we, the users, are just playing with this commodity. So in this graphic that I've still got on the wall from last night, that's in the bucket chain of the blue. The blue money comes in and out and spins out and goes away, and you have no control. Now, what they've done in Cuba is they've added a second blue bucket. They've added, here's our local, quote, money, and here's our foreign type money. So you have two parallel inadequate systems. Two bad systems is no better than one bad system. Now, what can happen, and let's get out of Cuba and get to Portland on this one. If you were to create a single Portland currency intended to solve Portland's problems, you'd be doing the Cuba problem again. You'd be going back to one system that attempts to in some way stand beside or opposite to or as an alternative or as a miserable word, the complementary word. It's a complement to our currency. Well, that's a thoroughly deficient attitude. For a start, that single substitute is never going to quite compare in people's experience with the hard U.S. dollar goes everywhere. So it will always look like a poor cousin, an inadequate thing. Now, what's powerful about open money is the capacity to create monies, to be sovereign with our monies in our own communities. And that sovereignty is enhanced as more and more and more of them emerge. This is the sort of distinction between the Metcalfe law of life and money and the Reed's law approach. Metcalfe says the bigger the network, the better. That's the oldest sort of model of network connection. So, gee, if you can be in the internet instead of just Portland, then you're in a bigger market, more connectivity. The trouble is that there's no patterning, no cellular behavior in that sort of a form. It's just like huge. It's like if you have a tray and you're carrying a pool of water on the tray, any little tilt and it sloshes all to one end or off the edge. That's what happens when you have huge currencies. What you need are many smaller, intricate currencies, hundreds in the Portland area, whereupon the multiplicity of those currencies creates an entire context for human behavior, where one so-called alternative or complementary currency would just, it looked like a lame duck, another snowflake on the sidewalk. It is not going to last and survive, and it will absorb an awful lot of time and energy trying to persuade people that it's a good idea. It isn't a good idea. It's a bad idea.
Is that kind of like the current hour systems that we see in play now?
Yeah, the core issue, first issue is conventional money goes through. You need monies that go round and round, that when you spend them, they somehow come back into you. Now, Cascadia hour, Ithaca hour have some sense of that last quality of recirculation inside a small community. But they lack the autonomy of the individual, and they put you back straight away into the quantity of money problem. How much money should be out there to effectively empower this little economy we're creating? Hence, you get into all this stuff about negative interest being a stimulant for transactions, and form a committee to decide on the amount of money that should be in this network. Well, then you're back to the Greenspan nonsense. You know, the wise person on the hill who decides exactly how happy we should all be or something. Well, you don't want to go there. So if you are going to create localized currencies, the Ithaca model is basically the national one brought down to scale with all the costs, consequences, and problems, and no range for diversity. You can't effectively have a bunch of Cascadia hours around. It's too much paper, too many colored pieces of paper scattered about. You'll get confusion, you'll get counterfeiting, you'll get a considerable lack of credibility. If you're going to be credible, base the money on businesses that are issuing essentially mutual credit. They're making promises in the public domain for their the redemption of the money that they issue. That gives you solid money. It's convertible. It's substantial. That is, the volume of money that you can get into effect with a community way program will be about 2 orders of magnitude more than the Cascadia Ithaca hours models can produce before they start going sideways and blowing apart. So get real, get multiple. Go forth and multiply. That's the basic rule of community currencies, of virtual money for the people. There shall be many currencies.
So I think that relays into my next question. How might open money become a dynamic force that aids the realization of personal aspirations?
Well, I think that the key point about an open money in a mutual credit closed loop, up and down let's type network, which is the predominant one, is the easiest one to implement, to administer, to handle the software, the infrastructure levels. The thing about such a currency is that it enables me as a user to spend myself into employment. Very simply, I start at zero, I spend $1,000, I'm minus 1,000. The rest of the community as a whole is aggregate plus 1,000 in relation to me. The money I created and injected into the economy is there and looking for me. So if I'm willing to work, the money that I've injected and the money that others have injected into the community economy is available, and I'll get work. But compare that with hard cash. You go and spend $1,000 of your hard-earned hard cash. It's gone. It's out of town. It's away. We cannot spend ourselves into employment. Local governments can't spend themselves into economic revival. State and national governments can't afford to do it anymore. It used to be in the 30s and 40s, the theory of Keynesianism was when the economy goes south, spend tax dollars into circulation on infrastructure and make work projects, and that will kickstart the economy. Well, no, it won't. It'll just shift more money through Walmart to China. That's all that's going to happen if you kickstart the economy with those old models. If we're going to kickstart our economies, we've got to do it with money that doesn't leave town. Now, in a network of 100 people, I spend 1,000. Everybody feels a little bit, it's 10 cents per person. No, did I say 100 people? It would be $10 per person. If, on the other hand, I spend that 1,000 in my Portland regional network and there's 100,000 people in it, then that's about 1,000th of a cent per person, right? So the bigger the system, the floppier the feedback of my injection. If I want to have tight, self-supporting, autonomous, let's get our show on the road sort of currencies, I should look to neighborhoods, I should look to localities, I should look to specific sectors, my professional trading world. There might be only a few hundred people involved in that. If I'm a musician, I should start using the music money for my music world so that I can really focus the energy inside there and support that focus for other musicians. Extend that through the whole panoply of human behavior, the spectrum of societal groups, what shall we call it, the collage of neo-tribalism.
Yes. So, okay. So, we often hear that the current model that we're in is also the fear economy. So, in considering what you just said there, how would open money eliminate the fear in the economy and instead allow for the recognition of true values?
Well, the fear factor in the normal economy is based upon my barrel in the middle, my tank of, if you like, gas, fuel, water, whatever it is that I'm thinking of. The money comes in. I need it. That's why I'm trying to get it. So I'm scrambling to bring it in. I spend it. It's gone. Now, that's continual deprivation. It's continual anxiety. It's archetypal for the creation of an addiction, is to have somebody be dependent upon something and give it a variable source of supply. So if I said you can have some bread tomorrow maybe, and maybe the day after, but I'm not going to promise it, then you would probably get quite addicted to bread quite quickly. If I said the same about air, you'd get it in a few seconds. You know?
Right.
Not sure if you can have your next breath, Colin.
Well, I'm always addicted to it.
We'd be carrying around the airbags. We'd be doing all sorts of things.
I seriously want to go to one of those oxygen bars and see what that's like.
Now, the thing about people who have difficulty swimming are usually trying to keep their head out of the water. Scramble to try and get their head as high as they can, which of course is counterproductive. You're just pushing weight into the air, so you sink harder, so you struggle harder. Well, how does that relate to the fear-greed cycle that we see that people indulge in with money? Very similar. Okay, now you have these additional currencies where you spend it, and it just comes back. You spend it, it comes back. Seems effortless. Well, this is like lying on your back in the salt water and finding that you can float impeccably. No problem. Just lie back and breathe. It's like that. The fear and greed are driven by the addiction and the scarcity. When you don't have the scarcity, there's no addiction, and both the fear and the greed can be gradually shed. It's just, look, we're floating, and we didn't have to scramble, and nobody's trying to drag me under. These are all the experiences of the conventional economy. There's an old Australian theory about how you keep a crab in a bucket. You know that one?
No, I do not.
You put another crab in with it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. 2 crabs in a bucket, and neither of them is going to get out, because as soon as one of them gets up the edge a little bit, the other one will drag it down again to climb over it. That's just built into the system. And that's how our conventional monetary world works. My fear is your problem, baby, because I'm going to take your business or steal your car or whatever it is. The things that people do that are consequent upon our need to have that money are despicable, stupid, trivial. So, don't get me started. Well, you just did.
Okay, well, so then for the realization of open money, what specific aspects should we focus on? What behaviors should we emphasize?
Well, I think the first thing is demonstrating reality, and that's what the community way thing is. And you can talk forever. Our basic premise is this. Conventional money, we all agree, you spend it and it's gone. No arguments, no problems. In principle, that's perfect because that's what it's built to do. But it leaves us without money going round. The answer, let's have money going round. Now, people can appreciate that at an abstract level. What they want is concrete, practical, experiential, particularly businesses. You can go in there and talk theory to a business forever, but they'll not be listening after the first 35 seconds. You're out of there. So you've got to go to a business and say, here's a practical proposition that's a demonstration of how a community currency recirculates around. It's only one demonstration. It's a very powerful one. It's a very useful one. We'd like you to play. You create community money by the act of declaring a donation to community projects. Substantial promises issued by each business who wants to play to each charity or community group or project that wants to be a beneficiary. Thousands and thousands of community way dollars. Now, then the charities and community groups use those or exchange them with their supporters for hard cash. It gets into the general consumer public. The general consumer public then become loyal to the businesses that started it. 1, 2, 3 sectors, gain, gain, gain for each. Look at this. We created the money. It went round and round. We won. They won. They won. We all won. A three-way win. Now, the concrete and simple nature of that demonstration is, I think, the royal road to getting the comfort levels up so that people can flourish into the multiplicity of the open money opportunities. Not everybody who gets involved with this idea will buy it. A lot of people will look at it and think, that seems weird. Barack hasn't said it's a good idea yet, so I don't know if I believe in it. I'll wait and see. Of those who get into it, into the community way, a lot of them will say, well, this is interesting and good, but I don't want to step out into the wider frame. Only a smaller proportion are going to be the people who say, hallelujah, this is great. We need a currency for the bike club. We need a currency for the new mothers. We need a currency for the old Greeks. We need a currency for, retired loggers. We need let's have. Not everybody's going to do that for a while. You don't need to worry about that. What you want to do is just make it available and let it be adopted at the level that people feel it's keen. You put your effort into community way. Now, partly because of the optics, partly because of the impact, the benefits you will generate for nonprofits that, as you pointed out, Colin, are facing increasingly difficult situations these days. But thirdly, it will give you juice. It will have the capacity to have, perhaps a dozen people working full tilt on this and getting paid. Now, nothing's going to move it forward faster than a bunch of people working on it full tilt and getting paid. So that's a primary good reason for getting Community Way going. It's your meal ticket. Okay.
So with all of that, what does the future look like with open money? How will the socioeconomy better reap, harvest, multiply, and nurture?
Well, the pattern process is that the way money moves is the way things move. If you take the economic transaction that we count in our financial recording process, the generalities of the so-called formal economy are, I give you a loaf of bread, you give me a piece of paper. Then I take that piece of paper, I give it to Ernie, and he cuts my hair. Ernie takes a piece of paper, and he goes and gets his car fixed. The piece of paper is a carrier that identically matches the pattern of exchange of goods and services. Okay. The goods and services won't move without the paper, and the paper won't move without the goods and services. That is, I can look at you and say, give me bread, and you say, but I'm a mechanic. There's nothing to move. If I want bread and you don't have it, it won't move. So the thing won't move without the paper won't move without the thing. But the two move together, right? Substance of the real economy matched by the symbol of the information ticket, piece of paper, account record. The problem we have at the moment, and to describe how the economy can be under open money, we've got to describe how the economy is in closed money. The pattern of closed money is in, through the community, and out again. And therefore, it supports predominantly the transfer of products and goods across boundaries. Portland exists because it sells things to the outer world so that it has the money so that it can buy things from the outer world that it doesn't create itself. Right. The in and out side of your regional economy is driven by the dependence of this money to be going in and out. It has no loyalty to Portland. It's off to China. It's off to Bahrain. It's off to the Bahamas. It's off to the subprime market crunch recovery process. Wherever it's going, it ain't here. So the consequence is deprivation and patterning of, people in strife and struggle. How do you get money around here? Hell knows. I may steal it from my neighbor, but as long as I've got it, I've got it. So the morality is low, the compulsion is high, the efficiency is appalling. The direction is abominable. With open money, you can set off all of those things. The possibility then becomes that, well, because I can only really spend a community currency if somebody else in the community is willing to receive it and feels good about providing the service or good that I'm asking for. There's no coercion and compulsion in a community currency. It's much softer. So, first of all, the sort of events which are encouraged by this parallel layer of community currencies, parallel to the hard money, are going to be differential applications of our human effort, our time, our skills, and our resources. But those are going to be more directed towards convivial, consensual acts between people and businesses and businesses and businesses and people and governments and whatever. All the events that take place with open money will be softer and more consensual. They will not be driven by coercion and compliance. And they will tend to quickly diminish the externalities and begin to address them. In hard cash, I'll clear cut the hillside because I get a buck or two. But in my local money, I won't be paid to clear cut the local hillside. It's simple little shifts like that that will determine a difference in how people live their lives. Choices will be there, and the choices will be basically between the quick hard drug and the quick benefit, which ultimately is a bit of a disaster or a cost to everybody else and is a non-perpetuating event. By comparison, I can have a perpetuating event that is convivial and consensual in the community. Now, I know there'll be a strong need for people to keep themselves secure in the hard cash side, so it's not going to go away. But it's going to be significantly tempered by the opportunity to augment and enhance and redirect our lives and our commonwealth from within the community currency, the open money platform. I guess I'd say we'll be working better, we'll be working less, we'll be working to more effect, we'll be working more socially, that my pursuit of my own self-interest in a community currency will serve the mutual interest of that community. We can afford to be even greedy, generous certainly we can afford to be. We can be greedy if we like. It does no great damage. In fact, it probably stimulates the economy quite nicely on a localized level. Greed without fear is, it quickly dissipates. Perhaps the core issue of a community that's operating with open money is that there will be a hell of a lot less fear. You can draw your own conclusions about where that would go, but I think that's the broad answer. But it really comes down to start your engines. Until this baby's cooking, nothing's going, until we're moving.
Exactly.
We're still stuck.
All right. Well, okay. Well, so I want to get Katin into this. You still there, Katin?
I am.
Katin, one thing I really want to say, of course, is I've always admired your work in technology. And one of the interesting correlations that I have been able to develop in my experience so far with open money is how open money seems to, in a lot of ways, reflect the advancement in technology and the advancement of Web 3.0. And so in the email that I received from you last night, you talked a little bit about the leaderless organization and the starfish and the spider. And I was wondering if you could speak to one, technology and where it's going, the leaderless organization, and then if you could, feed off of that and relate to how and talk about how open money relates.
Well, let's see. I think the book I would recommend for that would be Clay Shirky's Here Comes Everybody. The starfish and spider presents some real interesting group dynamics that are going on and it's more of a wrestling match, between, maybe because we're transitioning from the industrial age to the information age. Not sure, but we still have a heck of a lot to learn about this stuff. But the specific forces that are being applied to technology and growth, definitely Clay Shirky's book, Here Comes Everybody, he grabs the exact concepts that have shifted from the industrial age into the information age and has given specific examples of how that's changed on the net. How it applies to open money? Well, open money is a natural extension of that. You could think that as the record industry has changed, as newspapers have had to change and are changing, so money will also change. Money is basically an information technology, and so we deal with information technologies differently now that we have the internet than we did 25 years ago. So it's a lot to talk about. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I think you've sort of encapsulated all the pieces there. That if you look at what happened between Web 1 and Web 2, was Web 1 was everybody just thought this is like billboard advertising on the virtual space. And then emerged behavior that was more identified as the Web 2.0 stuff, where people's behavior reflected the technology and the opportunities. So social networking boosted very strongly. Now then the next thing that happens are architectures based upon that emergent behavior. And you can think of things like Facebook, Twitter, those affairs. They started augmenting on the basis of what people's behavior was. We're getting some hum on here. I don't know if you're hearing that.
That might be.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I might have to change one of my speakers here, so that'll solve a little bit of it. No hum anymore, I think. But it means your voices are no longer up on this channel. Are you hearing me at all?
I'm hearing you now.
Oh. Yeah, we're hearing now. Good, okay. Good. Sorry about that. It's just I started picking up too much buzz audio channel on the video. So we're now into this level where architecture in the new space of Internet is being designed to reflect the behaviors that were emergent from the first levels, hence Web 3. And so what Clay Shirky's pointing to with Here Comes Everybody is beginning to shift into, here come all sorts of people, and there are fascinating distinctions. It's sort of, again, this business of the Metcalfe concept versus the Reed multi-networks inside the same space. And specifically, and I had a thread there, and I've just dropped it out somewhere. Currencies, the multiplicity. Yes, in a way, the Shirky was basically saying, look, in the last 5 years, particularly the last 3, particularly the last 1, there's been conglomeration and expansion of all the pieces. Well, now they're beginning to differentiate, and there's a concept that suddenly emerged even just last few weeks called the asymmetric follow, which is that somebody on Twitter might be following 50 people, but being followed by 500. Other people are being followed by 500, are following 500, but only being followed by 2 or 3. Of course. Now, this differential use of the system is becoming a relevant factor in how it propagates. So I'd recommend, if you're interested, to just take a look at this asymmetric follow concept. If you go to the blog of Confused of Calcutta, that's one word, Confused about Calcutta, you'll get some opening leads in that in his most recent posts. We're beginning to see the emergence of a self-aware organism called the community of the Internet.
Wow.
And that's the autopoiesis of the process, is when the organism starts strategically exploring its own capacities. Well, we've seen that with the Internet and parameters around it. We're about to see it with money. Open money is to conventional money as the internet is to, well, maybe the old telephone systems in some respect. You know, like the shift is huge. Now, when you think that internet grew remarkably quickly because it bootstrapped on its own developments and, you know, expanded through. Same thing for community money. And we'll have the capacity to do the open money network with the prior existence of internet as the carrier for it. Now, you think how fast BitTorrent went as compared to even Kazaa. BitTorrent went out like a bullet.
Right.
Many bullets. And we're going to see the same thing around open money. Once tangible, substantial hardware systems are in place, software and systems, then this thing's going to go very fast indeed, because all the components for its propagation are already in place. Fantastic.
Okay, so my last question has to deal with the living systems theory. Cascadia Commons is a bioregionalist advocate. So we are choosing to look at the Pacific Northwest as composed of its parts, watersheds, the common fauna, and looking at and the people that inhabit it, all the living beings that inhabit it, as a total system. So I was, wanting to ask both Katin and Michael this question. What is the emergence of the living system, and how does Web 3.0 technology and open money facilitate that? If you could go.
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question, Collin, because it's not on the audio of the video.
Oh, okay.
Collin is asking, what is the emergence of the natural systems, the wider bioregional, the overall ecological considerations of the watersheds and the regions? How does that relate to open money and the emergence of these Web 3.0 phenomena? Katin, do you want to make a comment on that? I can maybe plug the sound up again and see if it'll come up clean for a second. Do you want any comments on that, or let me just fly at it?
Yeah, go ahead, because I'm still getting my head around that question.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Well, actually, let me say that, like being composed of its parts, it's like that tensegrity, the human body, it has a skeleton, it has muscles, it has organs, and all of this is composed together and it works together. And so there's two things that we're talking about here. We're talking about Web 3.0 and we're talking about open money. And it seems like these two emerging technologies are embracing this concept of the living system, where everybody creates a collective entity, and there's this ebb and flow, there's this new relationship. Bioregionalism, of course, is that same kind of concept, and so I was wondering if you could speak to Web 3.0 technology as being that kind of system.
Well, I don't know that Web 3.0 is necessarily sort of biologically compatible. I think it includes that capacity. But I think that the abstract patterning, the opportunities available in the Internet are in many ways utterly inconsistent with the real world. A tree can only be in one place at one time. Water is exactly the temperature it is. These things cannot be changed immediately. On the other hand, in the space of information can be in many places at different times and can be changed all over the place. There's such a different context. Now, the tools that emerge because of that flexibility in the web may be applied to achieving a sympathetic flexibility between our economy and the natural world. The problem with the conventional money is that it's a hammer. and it's going around looking for nails all the time. There's only one tool in the financial arsenal, and that is me first, and screw you, and more is better, and if I can ignore the tailing ponds or the CO2 I'm putting in the atmosphere or the mess I leave for my neighbors or the problems that I'm creating with my behavior, and we can ignore those because the dollar rules and the person with the dollar does what they damn well like, and the people who don't have it have to put up with it and suffer. Well, not just the people, but the environment. Okay, now Web 3.0, open money, major workarounds and opportunities become available. We can become, in our socioeconomic behavior, at least approach the subtlety of the real world. Our conventional money world is exquisitely unsubtle. It's brutally simplistic and monotonic, very boring, very coercive, compulsive, and destructive. When people have other roads to travel, when we don't all have to be on the same freeway at the same time competing with Hummers on our bicycles, the world is different. And I'm just looking to the point where we are increasingly able to withdraw from our pull down of our environmental resources. The destruction of these petroleum reserves in a mere generation or two will be looked back on in a few hundred years' time as one of the most insane and immoral acts of the human race. Just casually mortgaging the future of all generations to the greed of the immediate moment. Right. That's going to slow down. I'm not saying it's going to stop. I'm not going to say we can fix that tomorrow, but we can take some of the heat away from it. When you're trying to put out a fire, you can take away the fuel, you can take away the oxygen, you can take away the heat. Those three components are necessary. Essentially, we're taking the heat out of this economy. We're going to stop it being the best action to screw everybody else in your own interests, which is the way that conventional money works. It's nicer if you can make everybody happy, but that's so rare, it's impossible for most people, so they don't bother. We just, screw you, I'm going to win. It's a rough life. And who loses? Well, future generations and the current environment. That's the problem.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Katin?
Well, the term Web 3.0 is kind of a dubious term at this point. So when I hear you say that, what I'm thinking is the semantic web, or mapping web results and web searches more to individual words and phrases rather than pages. So we're getting down into our granularity is getting better. And then I think you're also including the emergent effects that Michael was talking about, like the ability for social networks to reflect reputation of companies. So now there's a new cost to harming the environment, and a new transparency and visibility that we can supply ourselves with this kind of networking. And I think that's a powerful force. And again, I'm going to recommend Clay Shirky's book for more ideas on how that gets managed and applied. And it's not a panacea. There's no, just adding the technology to the standard human behavior that we're all in is no fix. We're going to find crazy stuff happening in that sphere as well. But it lets us take care of some of the problems that we have and address things differently.
Yeah, in information systems, there's a concept called variety matching, which says that if you're going to control some system or interact with it, the tools that you use for the interaction should be at least as subtle and flexible and include as much variety as the object you're trying to manage. the comparison would be that in an old sailing boat, the captain could stand there and tell the helmsman to, move 2 points to starboard, or bring this over here. You can issue orders that way. You can't fly a jet aircraft onto a flight deck of an aircraft carrier with the admiral telling the pilot, oh no, a little higher, a little lower. The variety of information can't address the complexity of the task. We've been using a money and social institutions which are utterly inadequate to the complexity of our living economy, particularly when you bring in the natural world. Well, the granularities, the complexities, the subtleties, the varieties that we're now able to bring in will give us a better shot at it. They don't solve the problem. They just give us a chance to address the problem rather than continue to exacerbate the problem without any hope of solving it at all.
So then my last question has to do with, barriers to open money. I recently read a document issued by the Chicago Central Bank called Modern Money Mechanics. And I think it actually it's a rather fantastic description of conventional money. But in the world of open money, is there a home for conventional money, or is there a way that conventional money can evolve to embrace the concepts of open money? And then, of course,
no way that conventional money can be open. There will be changes in the way that conventional money operates as a consequence of the countervailing effect of open money. We'd expect to see things being tempered, the heat coming out of the credit market, both on the upside and the downside. But you've got to look 10, maybe 20 years ahead before you'd be able to be definitive about how one affected the other. I give you credit for your tenacity in reading that sort of book. I've never bothered, and I hope I never will, frankly. Flat Earth theory is really interesting for people who work on the flat Earth. These guys do. They have no concept of what we're talking about. And the difference between being in control of a monetization which is about imposing value on a thing that has no value in itself is so divergent from what we're talking about, the recognition of the value of our relationship and our capacity to give and receive. I mean, these do not compute with each other. The effect of open money will take the heat off the central banking. This has been always my theory that banks are not our opposition. They're going to be so glad that we have saved their sorry asses. And we can. Not to say we will, not to say that it will happen that way. Bankers are pretty stupid when it comes down to the core line. I don't mean they're lacking gray matter, that they're unintelligent beings, that they're not thinking, feeling people. I'm just saying stupid, like a deer caught in the headlights. Like, bonk, what do I do now? They haven't a clue what to do. And that's the most intelligent thing about them, is that they realize they haven't a clue. The idiots who think they can still do something with the system are truly demented. So the pathology of, the sociopaths is pretty strong. So don't get me started. Please don't talk about banks. It's bad for me. Thursday morning.
We will
not. Especially now when there's only about 6 minutes left. Okay.
Well, I guess I will sum up by talking a little bit about Cascadia Commons. Again, Cascadia Commons, we are a bioregionalist advocate. And we completely believe in open money and its future. We have a very exciting meeting here in Portland on January 6th, starting at 6:15 p.m. at the Madison's Grill. You can check out our website for more information, which is http://www.cascadiacommons.org. And if you're able to attend, that would be fantastic. If you're listening and able to attend, that would be fantastic. I look forward to your collaboration. We're continuing to investigate this, and hopefully in the coming months we're able to get a program launched. So I want to thank you, Michael, for your time and your wise words about the development of open money. So thanks again.
Wise words, yes. Well, thank you for your thanks. I appreciate it. You see, the curious thing about our world is that act of appreciation is fundamentally the core of a community currency based upon how people speak of each other. It's like, you did something for me, can't pay you any cash, don't have it, but I think that was a $400 deal. Thank you, Collin, for your $400 contribution to my well-being. That statement is all there is to it. It's an acknowledgement of the gift. The gift went from you to me. The acknowledgement went from me to you. Now, if that acknowledgement is a movable, fungible currency, we're home. You see, basically, we're empowering the benefit of saying what is so. This is all about speaking truth, our own truth, about our interactions, and making that a very simple, very transparent, very convivial monetary model. It's available, it's easy, it's right here. No big deal. Let's just get on with it.
Wonderful. Well, of course, I also got to thank, Katin for, being on the show, and, your input. And then also Ernie, great job, teching the show.
Teching the show, yeah, right. I'm just sitting here watching things, although I did get some things up on friend feed. So,
Ernie, watch.
Continue this conversation maybe in some of these other spaces.
Great. Well,
I just wanted to say thanks as well, guys.
Well,
Great.
Thank you, Kate.
Well,
we should get back on the software technologies fairly soon. I've had some interesting conversations with Heath in Alabama, and much in the hopper. So we're eager to move forward on the technology as well as the social and financial aspects of this project, and look forward to all participation from interested parties. But remember, if you're going to be interested in open money, it's open money we want you interested in. So conversations are welcome, but we won't want to talk about anything except open money, its ramifications, its implications, its applications, its development. It may be very interesting to talk about other issues, but other places for that. Here, we're on the open money trail, and welcome to join us. So with that, I'm going to close the video presentation.
Well, and also, if anybody wants to get in on these conversations, we're on friend feed and Twitter and email too. Imagine that. I'm Ernie at openmoney.org. Michael is MWL at openmoney.org. And we love having these conversations live on the air.
It's still live on the air, but it's no longer broadcasting, so anything you say will not be taken down and used in evidence against you. So
okay, well, mine says 1 minute remaining.
That's on the radio, or on the BlogTalk, yep. So this is, anything you say at this point is still recorded.
Yeah, but, don't say anything rude.
Yeah, no rudeness.
We can't talk about the aliens yet?
Aliens! Oh my!
I actually believe that aliens aren't aliens.
What do you
bring them on? I say.
Okay, I won't say it.
It's just expanding the biodiversity of the bioregion.
I think humans are aliens.
That'll be for another conversation.
The way we've treated this this jewel of a planet, I'd say we're aliens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, or at the very least a virus. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes some sense.
So we got to fix it.
Yep. Got to change our DNA. Well, I have to head out, guys, and so thank you very much, and we'll talk again shortly.
Thank you for your participation, kid.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Collin.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye, guys.
Okay, that's it. We're out of here. Goodbye. Goodbye, world.
Ernie?
Yes.
Wiping out, connect again.
Okay.